Hey everybody, Chad at Turner's Warehouse, and today I'm going to make the new hobby knife kit from Penn State Industries. I'm going to make all three finishes and show you what's in the starter set. Let's get started. So in this starter set you get three classic hobby knife kits, one in chrome, one in brass, and one in gunmetal. You also get the bushings and instructions. So there are the three kits. I've already separated the tubes. They use a 7mm tube with bushing specifically for the hobby knife kit, and then the instructions. Now let's take a look at the kit. So it's a fairly simple design. You've got the end cap, the front knife section, the tube, and the cap. The front knife section is nice because it's protected by the cap. It's a thread-on cap. So your assembly will be very simple, where you press the two parts together. Now, I'm noticing from the bushings there is a large and a small bushing, so we're going to want to make sure and turn our pen knife accordingly and make sure we assemble according to those larger and smaller bushings. This kit requires a 7mm drill bit, which I've got ready. And I'm also going to use some of our slim top choice blanks for this. I'm going to use the Teal copper, the royal purple, and the Abalone, which is going to look really cool. So this should make a nice set of hobby knife kits in really cool colors. So I'm going to cut these to length, just leaving them a tiny bit proud. I'm going to drill them on the lathe here. Now with the Abalone blade, I want to make sure and I pick the best end for the most color and cool look. So I'm going to go this way. Now you could cut it out of the middle, of course, but it looks like this is great here. Same with the Teal copper. I'm going to pick the best spot that, it's hard to judge from the outside, but kind of looks cool there. So I'm going to go cut these. I'm going to drill them on the lathe, and then I'm going to square them on my sanding jig. I'm going to drill these blanks now. I'm using a Record Power SC3 Chuck, and I'm going to go ahead and just put these in. I've cut these to length from my tubes. And what's nice about this chuck with the pen jaws, I can hold a little tiny slim on up to like a 1.5 inch handle blank. So it's got a good capacity range. Now I am going to use a small center drill. This is a number 2 center drill. And the reason I'm doing that is normally I wouldn't care so much if this was a full-size blank, but these slims are made very slim for that purpose. It's to save resin and save cost. And if I use this center drill, I know I'm going to drill this blank center, and I don't have to worry about not having enough material on one side or the other if my drill bit wanders a little bit. So I like to spin this about 700. And with the center drill, I'm just going to touch it so it gives me a center mark. I don't have to drill the whole thing. And now I can switch it back to my drill bit, and drill out the rest. All right, and I'm using a brad point, but a brad point or a twist drill would be just fine. I'm going to mark the length of my tube on here so I know how far I have to go. And actually, I pretty much have to go almost the whole way. So what I can do is, now that I have this center drilled, I'm going to lock my tailstock. I'm going to drill in. This first time, I'm going to use the tailstock. But now, once I get in there a little ways, I can kind of just back it up by hand. And I'm just going to push the tailstock in, because I should have a good pilot hole going. Well, this resin's a little tough. I'm going to use the tailstock. A lot of times with wood, you can just kind of push the tailstock and it'll drill nicely. I do like to clear it a couple times, clear my chips off. I'm not going to use any kind of lubricant because I don't want to mess up where I'm gluing, because I do have to glue this blank. Now as I approach the end, I want to go real slow. I don't want to have any chips or anything packed in there because that'll build up heat. And I want to drill out the end very slowly and carefully. If I push real hard or real fast, that's how I'll get a blowout at the end. I'll essentially push the material out the end. So it should be good there. I'm all the way through. And now I can glue this in and square off the ends to my tube, and I'll be ready to turn. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other two, and then I'll get back on here when we're ready to turn. Okay, I've got my blanks ready. This is gonna be a super simple turn. I am gonna try to bead one of these and see how that looks. Now, I wanna show you, I'm gonna go to the overhead camera. There is very little extra room on the larger bushing, but that's kind of the beauty of these slim blanks is there's not a lot of waste, which means less cost and makes it a little easier. So you can see I have plenty of room. There's a good probably 16 to an eighth inch of room there, but I'm not gonna waste a lot, which is kind of cool. I am gonna try to put a bead at the very front, maybe a double bead, we'll see how it works. But these are gonna be very simple turning projects, very quick, especially if you use a slim blank. Now, obviously, if you used a bigger blank or a wood blank, you'd have a little more work to do, but this is gonna be kind of cool. So let's see how this goes. So for turning tools on this, I'm gonna use my roughing Easy Wood Tool Mini, and I've got a negative rake with a radius on it. I prefer the radius, whether it be negative rake or not. I wouldn't choose negative rake for this blank because it's just a regular Alumilite, but it's already on my tool, so I'm just gonna leave it. And then I'm gonna use my little beading tool. This is the smallest, there we go. This is the smallest of the beading tool. It's the 3/16. Well, I shouldn't say it's the smallest. I think it's the smallest. There could be one smaller, but it is pretty small, and I think it'll leave a nice little bead here. So what I'm gonna do is get it round, which shouldn't take more than a few seconds, and then I'm gonna put that bead in, and then I'll cut the taper to the lower bushing at the back. So very simple. I'm just gonna look here, make sure that I'm all the way around. Got a tiny little flat spot there. But for the most part, these are so small and so round, it shouldn't take much. All right, I'm just gonna come in here and put a little bead there. And a little one, I'm gonna do two. Now, I'm not able to go all the way in to get the full round that I would like to with the beading tool, but that's because I have such little material. So I'm essentially just putting accent lines with the beading tool, but that looks cool as well. So that is it for turning this guy. I mean, literally probably a minute's worth of turning. I spent more time prepping and tubing the blank than I did turning it. These others I'm gonna turn in a similar way. Let me get those done, and then we'll jump over to sanding and polishing, which will also be fairly quick, but I want to show you a couple things with that. Cool. Now, I'm done turning. Got my 3 blanks there for my 3 kits. The turning time was incredibly low and small. Easy project. These would be great for craft shows or for gifts. I really like the way this kit looks, so I'm hoping it functions well once I have them made. I plan on carrying one with me because it's just a nice thing to have. But not a lot of turning, not a lot of like work time. But let's do some finishing, and I want to show you a couple things. So I'm going to turn these, or I'm going to finish these, I should say, between centers. So what I've done is I've put a live center, dead center, and a live center. So I put a dead center and a live center on my lathe, and I'm going to just very carefully, I'm not going to over snug it because I don't want to expand out the blank. or the tube in the blank. Because when you put a dead center or live center in here and you tighten this up, even with just a little bit of pressure, you're going to mushroom out and expand out those ends. So you just want it snug enough that it turns. But you don't want to overdo it, so don't over tighten it. A lot of times I won't even tighten the quill lock there, but this time I did. For sanding and polishing, it's going to be pretty simple. I'm going to use 600 wet dry sandpaper, and then I'm going to use Zona Paper wet to polish the blank. Now, just by doing these couple of things, you can see I'm not quite tight enough, so I can snug it up just a little bit, and that's all I need. Just barely touch it. And I don't need to be going 4,000. Let's go down to about 900. There we go. So I want to keep my paper wet. And if you need to tighten up a little more, that's fine. Just don't overdo it at the beginning. But when you turn with carbide, especially like the negative rate carbide, they leave a really, really nice finish. So if you make a good final pass, you don't need to start with a super low grit sandpaper to sand it. All I'm doing is taking out any little marks from my tool and flattening it out or smoothing it out, depending on your shape. Now, obviously, I couldn't do a lot of shape with these slim blanks, but I like a straighter thing, especially in my pocket. I don't want a bunch of bulges, but you might want to do some bulges or some beads that are a little bigger if you have the material. But really, 600 is all you need when you have a nice carbide tipped finish. So that's it for that. Now, I'm going to jump to Zona Paper. If you're not familiar with Zona Paper, it's a polishing paper set. So if you use micro mesh, it's just like micro mesh, only it's more of a paper, and it comes in sheets, and you cut little squares however big you want, and there's 6 sheets, green through white. Now the equivalent is like, I think it's like 1,000 or 800 grit down to like 25,000. So it's 1 micron, 30 micron to 1 micron. So the dark side goes down. So this is the green. And I like to do this for about 30, 45 seconds to a minute, minute and a half. Now I might spend a little more time on the first couple and then slowly speed up as time goes on. When I use the Zona Paper, this is what I use for all my stuff. I use it for pens, I use it for rings. When I use Zona Paper on a pen like this, on acrylic, I'll use it for 4 or 5 pens, and then I'll switch it to a new piece. So you can get quite a lot of use out of a sheet because they're 8.5 by 11, but you'll be able to use each little square for several pens. Now that being said, if I'm doing rings with Zona Paper, if it's steel rings, stainless rings, I only use it for 1 because your paper tends to get a little clogged up with dust. So that's pretty good on the green. And now I'm going to work my way through the other grits. And I'll do the other 2 blanks the same. And then we'll get on to assembly. Okay, that is killer. So hopefully the camera will pick up the colors and the shimmers. There's some cool look to that. And it's got a nice shine to it. I did paint the tube on this Abalone. I painted it white, and that kind of helps the white come through. If I hadn't painted it, it would show a little gold through there, and it kind of changes the look. So if you're going to do Abalone, paint it either black or white because it'll darken it or lighten it, but you don't necessarily want the brass. So, okay, I wanted to get a close-up of these blanks, and if I do say so myself, we make some killer blanks. These are our top choice blanks, and they just have such a good look to them. The copper teal It's like, and then the Abalone, just spectacular shine, swirls. And then this is just the royal purple. And it probably won't pick it up on the camera, but it's got such cool light and dark tones to it. I have a feeling this is going to be the one I'm going to keep for myself. Okay, I've got my parts laid out here by color. So I've got the chrome, gunmetal, and gold. The hard part here will just be picking which one to go with what. And actually, this isn't gold. I said gold, but it's brass. So that is brass. So the assembly is fairly straightforward. You do need to disassemble the knife part. So you'll take the blade out. Let's set it right here. And then what's tricky is you've got to unscrew this, but this knurled part doesn't unscrew. The collet, which is in the end here, is actually the part that unscrews. So you can see I'm gently unscrewing that. And then the collet, the knurl will come with it once I get that all the way out. So I'm going to screw that out. And now I can unscrew the collet in reverse. It is a reverse thread. And I can press this on. So remember, your two parts, there's only two parts that press. The wider bushing end goes to the knife end, and the smaller goes to the back end there. I think I'm going to, this may look, no, I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do the brass with the copper teal. I think that's going to look cool. So I'm going to load it up in my pen press here. I'm using a Miles Craft pen press. This is my favorite pen press. And it's spring loaded, so once you get it in there, it'll kind of hold, and then you simply move the blocks the amount you need, and then you just press. Now you can do one part at a time if you're not sure. If it's something that's hard to line up, this one is pretty easy and straightforward. You want to press until snug. Don't overdo it and crack your blank. But there you see both ends are pressed in. Now I can put this back in. Remember, it's reverse. And then thread this in. And just want to loosen out a little bit. Put my knife, razor knife. It's like an X-Acto knife, hobby knife. And then you snug that up, and you can put the cap on. And it's cool because it goes in your pocket, but it's easy to be protected without that knife blade on yourself. So very cool kit. Well, I hope you enjoyed this and got a little bit out of it. This is a very simple project. Very nice kit though in the end. I'm gonna actually keep this purple one for myself and keep it in my shirt pocket, just like that. But very easy to make, feels like good quality. Time will tell after I beat it up in my pocket for a couple days. But seems to be very good quality, very simple, nice, easy kit to make. The top choice blanks are a good choice for this. Slim blank, or if you wanted to do any accent or bigger body, you can do a bigger blank. But overall, I really think it's pretty cool, and it's nice to have a quick kit that you can make that's very substantial. It's nice and heavy. It feels like it's good quality, so we'll see. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.